usually young, usually immigrants, usually poor,
Right.
and they don't want to raise that baby. They're not ready to raise that baby. They don't know what to do. They don't know what their options are.
Exactly.
In California, there's an option. You have 3 days. After the baby's born, you can take the baby to an emergency room
Right.
or a fire station and say, I don't want to raise the baby. No questions asked. We'll take the baby from you.
Right.
Excuse me. A couple of problems. One is most young mothers don't know they have this choice. So my bill will publicize the bill. We'll get more information out, and we'll make sure that these young mothers know. The second problem is 3 days isn't long enough. We're finding babies abandoned all over California that are older than 3 days old.
Right.
They're more than 3 days old. So the doctors, the nurses, the OBGYNs, social workers, everybody says 3 days isn't enough. The standard around the country is now 30 days. 22 states
yeah.
allow for 30 days. I've tried to expand the bill to save lives. That's the
Right.
purpose of the bill, because babies continue to be abandoned and they die.
Right.
So I've sent the bill to the governor 3 different times, expanding it beyond the 3 days. He's vetoed it 3 times.
Why? I don't understand.
I don't understand. I think it's just a general callousness by the governor. I just don't think he cares. And he doesn't understand what these young mothers are going
What
through.
is his logic, though?
His logic is that he thinks if we expand it beyond 3 days that the babies are going to be subject to abuse. Those babies are going to be subject to abuse anyway. Let's take them out of those abusive households, is what I say, in
Yeah.
response to his arguments. They don't make any sense, quite frankly.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Well, since you're running for Attorney General, and there's been a lot of talks about crime, you have a bill that you have sponsored that would help the victims of crime. Could you tell us about it?
Well, we had an audit by the state auditor
Right.
last year. And the findings of the audit about the Victims' Compensation Board and Victims' Compensation Fund were very disturbing, very troubling. This board is supposed to send money out to the victims of crime. The money in the fund is collected from penalties and fines against criminals, convicted
Right,
criminals.
right.
So we have up to $60 million in this fund.
Right.
So they're supposed to pay you if you lost wages because you were a victim of a crime, if you went to the hospital, if you lost your car. The fund is supposed to pay you for those losses. In many instances, it takes up to 4 years for the victims to recover the money.
Huh.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
You're victimized when the crime happens. You shouldn't be victimized by the state. So I sent the governor a bill to clean up the Victims' Compensation Fund, to speed up the refunds,
Right.
to make sure people and victims in particular got their money and were taken care of. The governor vetoed that bill. I don't know what his logic was. I don't understand his logic. I don't agree with his logic. I think most of his vetoes of my bills are personal in nature, because I've been the governor's most outspoken critic. Since I arrived in the legislature in 2005, I have always been the Democratic critic of his proposals.
Right.
When he wanted to eliminate health insurance for 1 million kids, I stood up on the floor of the assembly and I said, Governor, this is a dumb idea. I said
Yeah.
it was dumb and it didn't make any sense. When he wanted to eliminate Cal Grants, I said, Governor, this is dumb. It doesn't make any sense. When he wanted to take away the benefits for the surviving spouses
Right.
of firefighters and cops that die on the line, he wanted to take away the benefits for their kids
Right.
after they died in the line of duty. I said, Governor, that's not a good idea.
Did he call you girly girl?
Girly men?
Girly man.
I've always stood up to the governor. I've always fought against the governor. Part of that is because before I went to the legislature, I was a union lawyer for 10 years.
Oh, that's right.
So,
You're a labor lawyer.
so I'm always willing to fight for
Right,
working men and
right,
women.
right.
And I brought that attitude to the legislature. And part of the challenge with that, however, is because we have a Republican governor and he doesn't like criticism because
Right.
He's an actor, my bills get vetoed.
Right.
I'm okay with
right.
that. It's part of the job. I'm going to always stand up for working men and women every day, and for kids.
Right. Well, what's going on with the employment picture and what the governor is doing? They're hiring people. They were going to hire people. Next thing you know, they're not hiring people. And I mean, supposedly, President Obama gave California $52 billion stimulus money to jolt, quote, the economy for employment. What's happening with that?
Well, it's not clear. I've been traveling around the state on this campaign, and I've been to 25
Right.
or 30 counties already, and I'm hearing from everybody that we need more help.
Exactly.
We have not received much of the federal stimulus package money.
Right.
I'll tell you who has benefited from the federal stimulus.
Who?
The banks,
Right.
the insurance companies,
Right,
the car
exactly.
companies. They've all benefited, but we haven't seen those benefits translated into
Yeah.
benefits for working men and women.
Exactly.
We're closing the car factory in Fremont.
Oh,
The Newman
really?
factory, it's going to close. The last car factory in the country that's west of Texas. It's going to shut down next March.
Wow.
It's going to cost us 4,600 jobs. I've done everything that I could to keep that plant open. It's going to close. At the same time, GM leaves Fremont. They're opening factories in Colombia,
Wow.
South America.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are the bailout money is going to benefit tycoons, bank tycoons.
Exactly.
It's going to benefit workers in Colombia. We have to make sure that the stimulus money gets down to workers right here in the United States and puts people back to work, because that's what
Right.
we need. We need people to feel like they have a job, they have a secure future.
Right.
They can start to spend money. They can buy a house. They can send their kids to college. All of those things are going away in California and in the United States.
Right. Right. So, since you're running for Attorney General, what would be the first thing that you'll do when you become Attorney General?
Well, the first thing, as a top law enforcement official
Uh-huh.
in the state, the top cop, you have to make sure that we're safe.
Right.
Public safety has to be the top priority.
Right.
How do you deal with public safety? First, you have to fight the gangs on their turf. What's their turf? High schools. That's where they recruit their gang members. That's where they sell their dope. So one of the proposals that I have is to put a uniformed police officer on every troubled high school in the state,
Right.
to make sure that we are fighting with the gangs on their turf. We also have to get a hold of our prison problem. We have a failure rate of 70% in our prisons. What do I mean by that? 7 out of 10 people that leave our prison system, within 4 years, they're back in. It's a 70% recidivism rate. It's the worst in the country. We have to get a hold of our recidivism rate. And we also have to make sure that the state is running the prisons, not the gangs. The gangs have a stranglehold on our prison system.
Oh, they do.
They
huh?
do. They absolutely do. They have bank accounts that we have for them in the state. They're called trustee accounts. The gang leaders that are in prison have their gang members send money into the prisons, cash, money orders, and then we send the money back out in the form of state checks. We're laundering the money for them
Oh, really?
from their criminal enterprises going into our prisons. And we're not talking about a few $100. We're talking about accounts that regularly, according to the warden in Pelican Bay, have $30,000 to $40,000 in them, and that money is being circulated back into our economy
Each
by
person?
the state of California. Each person, the
Wow.
leaders of the gangs, they're running their gangs from inside the prison system, and we're laundering money for them from the prison
We should
system.
give them IOUs instead.
We should, absolutely.
Right. Hey, guess what? We have IOU for you. That's incredible. I didn't know that.
That's happening.
Okay, but the governor is talking about letting out a lot of prisoners to, quote, resolve the budgetary problem. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a mistake and it's a problem. He wants to release 40,000 inmates, and that's not acceptable because some of these folks are dangerous.
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example of someone that let go from state prison. He committed a crime here in San Francisco a few years ago. Him and his buddy carjacked somebody. They pulled him out of the car. They almost killed him. Most attorneys think that the case was undercharged, that there should have been more serious charges brought. They plea bargained the case down to a carjacking. The guy did 3 years in prison, was let go. After he was let go, we thought he raped 3 kids, killed somebody. We didn't know where he was. This person, released from San Francisco, went on and he killed 4 cops in Oakland. That's the guy that killed the 4 cops. We cannot let people that are dangerous out early. We have to monitor them. That's part of the prison reform problem and the reform.
Right.
Making sure we have enough parole agents, making sure the caseloads aren't too high.
Right.
Because if you're in charge of 120 ex-convicts, you can't watch them.
Exactly.
You can't protect the public. So our top priority has to be public safety. And when I'm Attorney General, I'm going to make sure that it is, that our neighborhoods are safe.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we have the best schools in the world. If our kids can't walk to school and be
Exactly.
safe and live in safe neighborhoods, it doesn't matter how good our teachers are. So we have to have public safety. And
Yeah.
we have to make sure that we put the resources to public safety.
Well, campaigning is really hard. So who have endorsed you so far?
Well, I'm very honored to have received the endorsement of the largest organization of police officers in California. It's called PORAC,
All right.
Peace Officers Organization. They have 62,000 members. That's what they represent.
Congratulations.
So I think that I'm the candidate of law enforcement and public safety. I'm
Good,
very
good
honored by
for
their
you.
support, and I've been supported by police groups from all over the state, from the San Diego Deputy Sheriff's Association, the San Jose Police Officers Association, the Sacramento Police Officers Association. I have
Right.
support all over the state for my campaign. I've been endorsed by Fiona Ma right here in San Francisco.
Oh, good for you.
A great friend,
Good
a
for
great
you.
supporter, a great assembly member, doing a great job
Yeah,
representing
great,
San
yeah.
Francisco.
Of course.
So the campaign's been going great. So I feel very good about the support.
Is the
I'm
San
getting.
Francisco Police Officers Association going to endorse you?
Well, I know that they have a lot of problems with some of the other candidates in the race, and I have had conversations with them, and I'm hoping that that soon they will endorse me and support my candidacy as the law enforcement candidate in the race.
Oh yeah, that'll be awesome. That'll be very good. How about, I would imagine a lot of the labor organizations will be supporting you as well, huh?
Well, as we discussed earlier, I was a labor lawyer for 10
Exactly.
years before I arrived in the legislature. So I have been picking up a lot of support from from not only police
Right.
officers but firefighters.